around to save the day. Maybe.
I've heard that there's probably going to be an 18 gigabyte 5070 eventually. I guess I'll just leak that right now. So my suspicion is that the 5070 will be like a hair slower or similar to the 47 Ti Super and raster, like 10% better in ray tracing. And what they're going to claim is on average 5070 faster than 4070 Ti Super. And then they're going to sell that for like $600 or $700 with only 12 gigabytes. And then, yes, later they'll launch an 18 gigabyte version for probably $800. And they'll say, hey, but why are you complaining? It has 18 gigabytes. The 4070 Ti Super had 16 gigabytes, and maybe they'll use the fastest RAM. I think they just called the 18 gigabyte edition and be like, it's faster than a 4070 Ti Super. And so we're going to charge the same price because it has more RAM. That's my guess on what they're going to do. We'll see. I've heard that there's probably going to be an 18 gigabyte 50.
Man, I got two questions for you. What do you do and how do you do it?
I'm a stockbroker.
Stockbroker. Oh. Had to go to college to be a stockbroker, huh?
You don't have to. Have to be good with numbers and good with people.
Stockbroker.
Yeah.
Not an astronaut?
Don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something.
Tomorrow's going to be your first day. If you'd like to work here as a broker. Would you like that, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Maybe the night that my tears might let me know all the stars are gold, all the stars are gold, all the stars are gold. Maybe the night that
Man, I got two questions.
I said something about him, and he mentioned Haley.
You claim your mother's a cat and Kim is a known slut. So what's Haley gonna be when she grows up?
And I don't even carry guns no more, I don't got to. Got undercover cops that'll legally you. And I done seen a lot of people cross the line. But this motherfucker job must have lost his mind. That ex got him thinking he was DMX. Then he switched to Pac, now he's trying to be him next. So which one are you? Ex, Luther, Pac, or Michael? Just keep singing that same song, recycle. We'd all much rather get along than fight you. Me and Haley dance to your songs, we like you. And you don't really want to step inside no mic booth. Come on now, you know the white boy will bite you. I hurt your pride, dog, and you know I don't like to. But I will if I have to. With syllable after syllable, I just slap you. You faster than you and Bill after little pill of them tabs of that shit you on. But if you want it, you got it. You bump this shit too if we ain't this you on.
Say one nice thing about Ja Rule.
Oh, he's alive. I said something about him, and he mentioned Haley.
You claim your mother's a cat and Kim is a known slut. So what's Haley gonna be when she grows up?
And I don't even carry guns no more, I don't got to. Got undercover cops that'll legally you. And I done seen a lot of people.
Women can do it on their own. We don't have to shut the up, bro. If that's what you like, then get what you
ever wished you could play a video?
It's a Korean drinking game called APT. It seemed to be the one that all my friends in the studio were like vibing to. Like I taught them once and they just kept coming back to it. They're like, can we do it again? They were like, pate, and everybody was like chanting it. And I was like, this is interesting. Why do you guys love this so much? I was really lucky enough to have Bruno jump on it. Craziest experience of my life.
Bruno and I am biggest fan. We were like, should we ask? And I was like, oh my god, we're gonna send him songs. And he's
and everyone puts their hand in the middle above each other, like randomly. I'll call out a number, like 6. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and whoever gets on the top takes the shot.
God doesn't give you the people you want. He gives you the people you need to help you, to hurt you, to leave you, to love you, and to make you the person you were meant to be. God doesn't give you the people you want.
Yeah, this one.
Zbior. So if you haven't watched this video yet, basically Falcons didn't make the finals in BLG's qualifiers, and that is because in their last game they got pushed by TSM and they lost, and with that they lost any chance to making it to finals. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna let you watch the video, and if you want to see the Falcons meltdown, I highly suggest you to watch this video, and yeah, I will see you in the next one. See you.
Listen, there's a pyramid building. We have to take control of the close buildings.
We're inching this building close, alright?
I have 7 shotgun ammo in reserve.
Walk upstairs. Walk upstairs, no zone.
We wait for them to bubble and then just send it? Should we rat here? Yeah. We should wait for the bubble.
They have a Q. Just walk fast, walk fast. Oh, get off.
Wait, on us? Yeah, oh my god, he climbed. I'm chilling.
It's Evan doing that, bro.
They give you ulted. They're gonna try and move for Mythic.
I give you ulted. Wall to the right here, Evan. Wall to the right. Wall to the right to the bins.
Batted.
Above, sure. Send them in. We need to get to us.
Where are they?
Yeah. Can we walk? Go close. Walk close.
Yep. On my door here.
Walk close.
Everybody in this?
Hop in the cell right now. Yeah, they can jump out one of our backsides. Go inside. Go inside.
Picking left.
Sure.
Open cells.
The shell's all in. I have 5. Bottom 5. Sure.
Behind. On me close, behind. Dead.
Chill.
I gotta reload.
Help me. Watch out.
Dead.
Yes! Look at it!
On me, another team. Castle one. Castle dead.
No!
It was killed too.
I triple take!
I'm picking.
I'm double taking! I'm picking inside! I'm fucking! I need help! This one! No! Help! Evan one! Oh, where? I said what I was doing. Bro, I said what I was doing! Get the fuck... What? I said what I was doing, gave like 10 seconds!
I just pulled a Mazer, bro.
Bro, you guys are not real, man.
Bro, did you get PTSD, Zap, when you heard that?
What?
Fight!
When your whole team is dead and your wife's like, fight! In a 1v3.
Actually slammed him though. Not gonna lie, bro.
Bro, Jordan, how much damage did you do in that fight? Like 400 damage?
No, how much?
I triple ticked them. They're all Gibby stun. And I ticked them again. And they have no bubbles still.
I should have just swung around the back to you.
I literally did 1 million damage. I can't even count how much damage I did. Like at least 300. We couldn't swing out. There was 2 on our door. That's why we didn't swing out right away.
Were you on high ground?
I was on the opposite high ground to you.
I was on the door where they were like kicking the door down.
I don't know what else to do. I've communicated as much as possible and done 300 damage, 240 damage, and they've all munked me. I actually don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. I've like calmed everything humanly possible. Complexity is gonna overtake as well. So unless No Name had 0 points, we don't even have a chance of calling.
If we tie with anyone, we should win because we won a game. Who's streaming on No Name?
Oh, Cole's overtaking us, did you say?
Yeah, that for sure.
Do we know if Lone Sharks are alive?
I don't know.
I don't understand what to do.
Oh, the fuck TSM are doing?
I'm gonna fucking actually have a breakdown. Like, why do I speak? Why do I play this game? Why do I IGL if I can't IGL? Like every single game.
Ба, двоих играл.
Бабл дал. На край прям.
Саурон дал, короче, двоим поставил.
Hi there, Zbior. So yeah, the boys from Falcons had a rough day. They started off great with a win in the semifinals, but after that things turned around and yeah, they didn't even qualify for the finals tomorrow. As you can see on Battlefight, they finished 11th place, and that means they didn't qualify for the finals, but that doesn't mean they won't qualify for BLGS LAN. I think for that they need to be at least 16th place overall from the whole qualifiers, and currently they are 13th place overall. So yeah, I think they should play on LAN. But anyways, I'm gonna leave you.
Hello? Can you come to that corner?
Up.
because the team above me looked down while we were chasing the.
Right.
Yes.
Yep. Come. You can stop him.
I'm stuck on low ground right now.
They're swinging him.
I cracked one. I cracked BB.
Out the right.
Selling.
I'm bubbing.
I cracked that.
I think one's dead.
Cracked two.
Give me that.
Healing.
Kylos was low. Kylos was low.
No, I'm dead, bro. Fuck me, cunt. Nice. It's lost, guys. On here. Here.
Why would you fucking move it? Why? You griefing me?
Oh, no. Obviously, I'm fucking not trying to. On here. Here.
Why would you fucking move it?
Low. Kylos was low.
Nice. It's lost, guys. Cunt.
Low.
No, I'm dead, bro. Fuck me, cunt. Nice. It's lost, guys. On here. Here.
Why would you fucking move it? Why?
One's dead.
Coming up.
What you, bro? I'm bubbing. What you?
Cross mass race.
Swing it left.
Coming up.
What you?
Cross mass race.
Swing it left.
Coming up.
What you, bro? I'm bubbing.
I cracked that.
I think one's dead.
Cracked two.
Give me that.
Healing.
Kylos was low. Kylos was low.
No, I'm dead, bro. Fuck me, cunt. Nice. It's lost, guys.
From Mill. I think there's a.
There's a team
They're
playing
going backside.
I killed the Gibby. No, I'm gonna die to him.
Yeah, fight. Castle low.
Dead. Castle one.
I mean, one. He's one.
No, I'm gonna die to him. I'm gonna,
Are we real? I've entered so bad. Yeah, fight. I've entered so bad. Yeah, fight. Castle low.
Dead. Castle one.
I mean, one. He's one.
No, I'm gonna die to him. I'm gonna,
Are we real? Oh, it's like low as fuck.
Who's streaming
I-
on?
So we don't have a chance of calling. If we tie with anyone, we should win because we won a game.
Who's streaming
I-
on?
Oh, Cole's overtaken us, did you say? Cool. Unlikely. I swear they came like.
Oh, they
13th.
die soon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
They
they came
died like
13th.
instantly, so I don't know what happened, but someone must have mirrored them and they just got insta killed.
Yeah.
Or shit.
I don't know, this is when they come behind us, isn't it?
No, they already happened.
Was that earlier?
Earlier.
If it's not loan sharks, it's like very unlikely we get overtaken because everyone's so far behind.
What do you say, sorry?
If it's not loan sharks, it's like a team needs an 18-point game.
They're getting pushed
Yeah.
right now.
It just needs to be.
Yeah, we need TRK to get only one kill. Or 1 point, I mean.
I think they just
They're
died.
fighting
That's
right
where
now.
they came.
They're like taking a 3v3 right now on stream. They wasted lifeline ult.
They wasted all their fucking util.
They're getting pushed.
I think they just got mobbed here. I can't lie.
No, they definitely do.
This team-
There's no way they
this
killed.
team's inting the fuck out of them.
It's Cole. No, it's Cole.
Oh. Right, they just finished it, I think.
Oh my god, do we actually call?
Okay.
They got only 1
Right,
point.
so we overtake them, we overtake
Wait,
purple.
we actually call.
Yeah, loan sharks.
I don't know. Well, we overtake the 2 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in 10th right
Versus
now.
their bows. So it's literally up to loan sharks, and then everybody else needs a fucking nuke. Or stallions could just big win.
I highly doubt it. Because everyone died like so fucking early and aped each other.
No, the 5th place team's fucking dying.
Wait, are they playing Valk? Dropping them?
Yep.
I think so.
Well, they're killing, I think, the 5th place team. But this Newcastle's playing it
No,
perfectly.
they're not killing them.
Oh my god, die please. Please.
They're gonna
I
die.
think that is.
This is denial. What team is denial?
See, it is them. Wait, no, they're 3 up. They're 3 up right now. They stopped 3.
Alright, loan sharks. Oh
They
fuck.
have 2 kills. Well, they have.
They're 9.
Eight-
If they come
they need to
third,
come
they
third.
don't. Even
fighting.
second,
They're about to win the game.
second,
They're about to win the game.
second, no more kills.
They win the game.
Oh, they win the game, cunt. You can't be serious. He can't be fucking serious.
The new Ryzen 7 9800X 3D is out, and it's making waves as the new king of gaming performance. But we think it's worth offering some advice as to how you should assess whether or not a CPU upgrade is right for you. What sparked the idea for this video was the negative attention other reviewers have gotten for their recent 9800X 3D reviews. The controversy surrounds running game benchmarks at 1080p, when those interested in these high-performance chips are most likely playing at 1440p or 4K. With this controversy has come follow-up limiting factor in the benchmark perspective on in Baldur's Gate 3, 7%. In Counter-Strike 2, was able to flex its muscles with a 20 nuts for this game. Of course, to squeeze an even bigger CPU bottleneck, we've again got 1080p low results. In this scenario, the 9800X 3D is able to flex its muscles with a 28% lead over the 7800X 3D. To see a fairly small gap between the two chips at both 1441 and 1440p Ultra were seriously GPU bottlenecked, and therefore saw virtually no difference between the chips. At 1080p very low, the CPUs begin to hold back the 4070 Ti Super, handing a 7% lead to 3D setup. Next up, we've got Black Myth Wukong at 1440p cinematic quality, where we are patients, though, the two, and they're both over benchmark. We see a 4% gain from the 70 CPU upgrade. Reviews, as that's with no wheels. Since we're not even video to let you know that it's okay if you don't, and it's actually reasonable if you don't want to upgrade. But in case you're still itching, I gotta ask, what's made you decide to upgrade? Got more money than you know what to do with? That's the spirit. Let us know down in the comments.
Uh-oh. Our 9800X 3D is now burning up? One Redditor user says yes. Hey, Jay. 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 What? We got work to do. Starter pack to get you up. Gone up in smoke. We kind of have brand new available now. What if it was backwards? Actually, look at that. The wrong way. And I bet you if you were to take frame around it. So let's go ahead and take a look right here. You can see we'll put it side by side with the photo versus what a fresh, unused socket looks like. This is an unused board. We have not used this board for anything yet. So a lot of the damage in the melting, or not melting, but the charring is right in the center pins. And I bet you if you were to take a look at a pinout diagram, you could probably map the charring specifically with voltage pinouts. Because some of these are data, some of them are voltage, some are grounds. So I bet you can find that there are correlations specifically with voltage for the CPU itself. But if you look over here, we're keyed, right? We have these two keys right here that allow you to put the CPU in only one way. So if I take this Ryzen CPU right here, so those are intended to keep the CPU from going in the wrong way. But I'm wondering if maybe he initially tried to put it in so you can't even get it to start to go into the socket the wrong way. What if it was backwards? Actually, look at that. You can get it to start to go in the wrong way. Enough to maybe think. Because if we look now, because of the way the tabs are, the corner is up on this lip right here. Now, the way that his lip is damaged makes me feel like he tried to close the lid with it in there the wrong way, or it wasn't seated properly and potentially stripped this plastic piece right here. Now what that could have intentionally or unintentionally done is once you put the CPU back in the correct way, if there's a little piece of plastic right here keeping this side from seating down all the way, now the pins are not going to be making great contact. Remember, these are spring-loaded, these are spring pins. So what happens is, let's say this is the pin right here. The CPU goes down on it. It's supposed to push pressure against the pin. And that pressure back against the CPU pad gives good contact. But now if we're not making good contact, we're just sort of barely touching it because it's lifted, it kind of then brings in the problem that we saw with 4090, which is where if those power pins are not fully seated and they're crooked or they're not making good contact, it increases the resistance across that connection, which increases the temperature and the draw. That's what potentially happened here. So I don't think we have a, I'm going to seat this all the way to protect the socket. I don't think we have an issue here or a smoking gun that there's a defect with the socket. I don't think this is necessarily even a defect with the CPU at all. I guess we just need some forthcoming honesty from the Redditor to say whether or not, hey, did you try and latch that down and it wouldn't go and you realized, oh, it was in there wrong and you put it in there the right way? Because that is the biggest piece of evidence right here, is that physically damaged socket. And you can tell by looking at it. just, it looks like something caught the lip and just like bent it down and cracked it. And now that you have that piece that's like split and sticking out, that's gonna keep the CPU from seating down all the way. So I don't think this one's gonna take a whole lot of research to really figure out what happened here. The only other potential saving grace for this user could be if he swears everything went correctly the first time, their menu, that it would catch, or it's down.
I've already, I believe, talked about NVIDIA wanting to make CPUs for years, actually. I was hearing NVIDIA was going to enter the CPU market in a big way. Well, one source reached out to me that works with NVIDIA and said, yeah, it is happening. And another person who works at NVIDIA, I went, that is correct. Your other source is right. First source told me that they can tell me firsthand that they are planning to launch an ARM-based APU to thin and light laptops, and that NVIDIA is at least partnering with Dell to make an Alienware NVIDIA exclusive laptop that is built to the metal for the NVIDIA chip. NVIDIA is very serious. They're trying to rush this thing out by late 2025 or even 2026 because they want to get this to the market before Soundwave is out. When you see how much Intel's falling apart, now is the time for them to push for this, especially before AMD gets Soundwave out and really gets a foothold with Zen 6 Medusa or something.
I hope somebody is there to take Intel's place when it comes to CPUs. Not sure if I want it to be NVIDIA because NVIDIA has enough power as it is, but I have a feeling that's going to be a good launch.
I've already, I believe, talked about NVIDIA wanting to make CPUs for years, actually. I was hearing NVIDIA was going to enter the CPU market in a big way. Well, one source reached out to me that works with NVIDIA and said, yeah, it is happening. And another person who works at NVIDIA, I went, that is correct. Your other source.
SSDs are now being installed on graphics cards. And honestly, I'm all about this if this is the future. So far, this is just an Asus RTX 4060 Ti concept GPU, but as you can see, there's a slot here for a Gen 4 NVMe drive right on top. The reason why this can be effective is because some GPUs these days aren't taking advantage of the full by 16 lanes that PCIe slots are giving them, thus having extra for an SSD. For example, the recent NVIDIA RTX 4060 only uses PCIe by 8 lanes, which means there's an additional 8 lanes that's not being used at all. In theory, you could have 2 additional SSDs on here because each SSD only uses 4. That's not even the best part. As we know, we're starting to see heat issues with SSDs lately because they're just getting so fast. Imagine the cooling capacity such as the fans and huge heatsink from a GPU that can now cool your SSD as well. So are you as excited as I am that SSDs are now being installed on graphics cards? And honestly, I'm all about this.
General purpose computing as we know it has existed for 60 years until now. For the last 30 years, we had the benefit of Moore's Law, an incredible phenomenon. Without changing the software, the hardware can continue to improve in an architecturally compatible way. Every single industry has subsequently been built on top of it, but we know now that the scaling of CPUs has reached its limit. The free ride of Moore's Law has ended. We no longer can afford to do nothing in software and expect that our computing experience will continue to improve, that costs will decrease, and continue to spread the benefits of IT and to benefit from solving greater and greater challenges. We started our company to accelerate software. Our vision was there are applications that would benefit from acceleration. That acceleration benefit has the same qualities as Moore's Law. For applications that were impossible or impractical to perform using general purpose computing, we have the benefits of accelerated computing to realize that capability. For example, computer graphics. Real-time computer graphics was made possible because of NVIDIA coming into the world and make possible this new process. We have all of the libraries, acceleration libraries that we were talking about before, but on top, there are 2 very important platforms we're working on. One of them is called NVIDIA AI Enterprise, and the other is called NVIDIA Omniverse, and I'll explain each one of them very quickly. First, NVIDIA AI Enterprise. This is a time now where the large language models and the fundamental AI capabilities have reached a level of capabilities we're able to now create what is called agents. Large language models that understand the data that, of course, is being presented. It could be streaming data, video data, language model data, it could be data of all kinds. The first stage is perception. The second is reasoning about, given its observations, what is the mission and what is the task it has to perform. In order to perform that task, the agent would break down that task into steps of other tasks. And it would reason about what it would take, and it would connect with other AI models. Maybe it's a model that understands how to generate images. Maybe it's a model that is able to retrieve AI semantic data from a proprietary database. So each one of these large language models are connected to the central reasoning large language model we call agent. And so these agents are able to perform all kinds of tasks. Some of them are maybe marketing agents, some of them are customer service agents, some of them are chip design agents. NVIDIA has chip design agents all over our company helping us design chips. And so we're gonna have agents that are helping our employees become super employees. These agents, or agentic AI models, augment all of our employees to supercharge them, make them more productive. Now, when you think about these agents, it's really the way you would bring these agents into your company is not unlike the way you would onboard someone who's a new employee. You have to give them training curriculum, you evaluate them, and so there are evaluation systems, and you might guardrail them. If you're an accounting agent, don't do marketing, and so each one of these agents are guardrailed. That entire process we put into essentially an agent lifecycle suite of libraries. And so this is what we call NVIDIA NeMo. We have, on the one hand, the libraries. On the other hand, what comes out at the output of it is a API inference microservice we call NIMS. Essentially, this is a factory that builds AIs. And NeMo is a suite of libraries that onboard and help you operate the AIs. And ultimately, your goal is to create a whole bunch of agents. The next generation of IT is going to be about producing and delivery of AI. And as you know, the delivery of software, coding, and the delivery of AI is fundamentally different, but dramatically more impactful, insanely more exciting. The second part is this. What happens after agents? Now remember, every single company has employees, but most companies, the goal is to build something, to produce something, to make something. It could be factories, it could be warehouses, it could be cars and planes and trains and ships, all kinds of things. That next generation of
I recently made this 17-pound copper tube to experiment with Lenz's law using this terrifyingly powerful neodymium magnet. It's fascinating to watch this magnet seemingly defy gravity while it floats to the bottom of the tube. This happens because as the magnet moves, it creates electric currents in the copper, which in turn create magnetic fields that oppose the magnet's motion. This invisible resistance slows the fall, making it look like the magnet is defying gravity. What's even more fascinating is that when I place the magnet in the tube and spin it, the magnet stays suspended in the center. This got me thinking, will a spherical magnet float in the center of a copper sphere? Well, in today's video, we're going to find out. But first, I need to make a copper sphere that we can actually see into. I wasn't sure how I was going to go about designing something like this until I noticed one of my dog's favorite toys. Here's what I designed. It's as close as I could get to a sphere while still being able to see the magnet through it. The shape is actually called a truncated icosahedron, but that's a mouthful, so for my sanity, I'll just refer to it as a sphere. I started by 3D printing it in PLA plastic. I'll use these 3D prints to make a mold out of ceramic shell. It came off the printer looking pretty good, but I still needed to spend some time cleaning it up to get it ready for casting. Next, I'll attach some sprues. These are what I'll pour the metal into, and they're really large because they'll act as risers, supplying the castings with molten metal as they solidify and shrink. Here's the ceramic slurry that I use. Over the course of about a week, I'll dip the models into the slurry a total of 9 times in order to build up a thick shell. In between each layer, I'll coat them with fused silica sand. This helps thicken the shells and also adds some strength. Making complex shapes like these is where casting in ceramic shell really shines. There's no way I could make these any other way, and having a machine shop make them would be incredibly expensive. Next, it's into the kiln to burn away the plastic and turn the shells into a strong ceramic. I don't just burn away all the plastic though. Once the temperature is high enough for it to liquefy, I remove most of it, and then I return the shells to the kiln and fire them at about 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's all the copper I'll be melting. This is 9 pounds, or about 4 kilograms. It's mostly copper pipe with some wire thrown in there also. It'll take about an hour to melt this amount. Copper is always fun to melt because it creates these really cool looking green flames when I add fresh pieces to the crucible. Once the copper's hot enough to pour into the shells, I'll quickly remove the shells from the kiln while they're still extremely hot, place them on some sand to catch any spills, and then pour in the metal. It's always amazing to me that for all the prep work and time that I put into thinking about this, figuring out how to execute it properly without fumbling around or making any mistakes, it only takes a few seconds or so to cast these and they're done. It's out of my hands. I've done this hundreds of times by now, but I still get a little rush of adrenaline every time I pour a casting, and I think that's mainly because of how much work has led up to this point, and I just want everything to go right, and fortunately, most of the time it does. Now I just have to wait for them to completely cool overnight before I can start removing the shells. I'll have to use my sandblaster to carefully remove the shell because I can't risk trying to break it off since copper is so soft. I could end up deforming the castings in the process. This is actually really satisfying. Instead of just slowly blasting the whole thing away, I try to cut large pieces off. some idea, each shell took about 30 minutes to remove. These castings turned out super nice looking. You can see these booger looking things here, which are caused by air bubbles as I dip the models into the slurry. These are really easy to remove with a chisel though, and besides that, they're just about perfect. Now I'm drilling a hole into the center while I have something to hold onto in the vise. It'll make it easier to file in the pentagonal shapes later on, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. I wonder what I could use these for. Any ideas? It's really important that these pentagonal holes are filed straight and precise, as I'll be 3D printing plugs to fit perfectly into them. These plugs will serve as points where I'll be able to spin the sphere, so the fit needs to be exact for smooth and balanced rotation. The last step is to polish each facet, and this little belt grinder really made it easy. I'm using a Scotch-Brite like belt, which can polish each facet in just a few seconds. Since it's solid copper though, it heats up really quickly, so I have to cool it down in between each one. Well, here it is. I think this thing turned out incredibly cool looking. Honestly, even if I had just made it as something cool to look at, I'd still be really happy. Okay, let's find out if it actually works. Here are the plugs that I'll press into the holes I filed in. Hopefully they'll stay put. To hold the sphere together, I printed some clips, which should do the trick. The magnet I'm using is a 2-inch N52 neodymium magnet. It's the most powerful grade you can buy as far as I know. And of course, I also made a stand for everything to sit on. Okay, so I've resisted actually spinning this thing up until this moment, so hopefully something cool happens. Oh yeah, it is. It's actually floating right there, look. There, and now it's kind of falling, but at the right speed. Right there. Yep. That's so cool. I wonder if I can get a better angle on this so you can see what I mean. Okay, so I changed up the lighting a little bit, and obviously it's a different angle, so hopefully you can see what I'm seeing. Yeah, it is actually floating there. It's just about getting the right speed. Right there. Yep. It's totally just floating there. That's awesome. Oh man, that's so cool. Let's try a drill. So I think when I do it really, really fast, centripetal force is just forcing it over to one side, I think. So obviously this is working, but it's difficult to get it at a consistent speed. And also this plug isn't fitting in there really well. I think it's kind of worked itself loose. So I'm gonna need to reprint this, and then in the future, maybe I'll hook it up to a motor, and that'll make it a lot more consistent. So clearly it works, but the effect isn't quite as dramatic as I was hoping for. There may be some ways I can improve on it, so let me know if you have any ideas. Besides levitating a magnet, there are a whole lot of other things I can do with this thing. By using another magnet about a foot away, I can rotate the whole sphere. It's really hard to show on camera just how strange it is to manipulate the magnet in here. It's almost like it's underwater. It's very bizarre. Let me know if you can think of some experiments I should try, and I'll make a compilation video. If you would like to follow along with the progress of my projects and help to support the channel, then consider joining my Patreon for Patreon-only content. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, let me know what you think in the comments, give the video a thumbs up, and subscribe for future projects. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This shape is actually called a truncated icosahedral. Here's what I designed. It's as close as I could get to a sphere while still being able to see the magnet. Dog's favorite toys. Here's what I designed. The shape. It came. Here's the ceramic slurry that I use. Over the course of about a week, I'll dip the models into the slurry a total of 9 times in order to build up a thick shell. In between each layer, I'll coat them with fused silica sand. This helps thicken the shells and also adds some strength. Making complex shapes like these is where casting in ceramic shell really shines. There's no way I could make these any other way, and having a machine shop make them would be incredibly expensive. Next, it's into the kiln to burn away the plastic and turn the shells into a strong ceramic. I don't just burn away all the plastic though. Once the temperature is high enough for it to liquefy, I remove most of it, and then I return the shells to the kiln and fire them at about 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's all the copper I'll be melting. This is 9 pounds, or about 4 kilograms. It's mostly copper pipe with some wire thrown in there also.
When I first built this racing sim, I had one question. How real can I make all of this feel? I went from buying the most expensive ultra-wide triple monitor setup to upgrading to the best VR headsets on the planet. And each step felt crazier than I could have imagined. But today, we're going to the next level. Now, the first thing we're changing is this seat, which I cannot wait to upgrade. I've never liked this thing since the moment I've put it on. It's too wide, it's like really cheaply made, it like creaks now. The mold as well just seems a little bit off. And, you know, it's not like we're pulling any G-forces in this rig, but there are simply better bucket seats out there. And this is the new seat. It is the ES1 from Next Level Racing, and you can see the upgrade, right? It's a pretty obvious difference. I don't know if it's just me, if I'm just super excited about trying a new racing seat. But yeah, everything from the shape, to the materials, to the posture when you're actually sitting in the seat as well, it is a massive difference. And it is so much better. Honestly, I'm kicking myself that I didn't do this much sooner, because I've done a quick test fit and it feels so much better to sit in. There's only one problem though. The mounting brackets for this racing simulator don't actually line up with this seat, which I honestly thought would be the case. It does like friction fit and squeeze into the rig quite nicely. It's a kind of satisfying fit, but yeah, as soon as I activate some pedal force, as you can see, we can't be having that. But luckily, I got one of these. More specifically, a 3D scanner. This one is the Creality Raptor Pro, and with this, I can scan the racing sim, scan the mounting points, and within about 5 minutes, I've got a usable 3D model. If I didn't have this, I'd have to hand measure all of the different points, create rough models of those, and honestly, I'd probably get them wrong. The only inconvenience is having to apply the surface spray and the tracking dots, but you can do that pretty quickly, and the spray also evaporates after a couple of hours. But yeah, this feels like a massive cheat code for my workflow. The fact that I can just import the 3D model and start making some mounts, it is almost too easy. In Fusion 360, I played around with a few different approaches, including a generative AI design, which did not work, but I ended up making one mount for the front, one mount for the back, and then one also underneath, which holds the seat at a slight angle. This is my first time modeling mostly from T-splines as well, which is a lot more of a freestyle kind of 3D modeling method. It was a nice little opportunity there at the very least to improve my skills, and in the end, I will say, they turned out pretty good. The cool thing about 3D scanning is that everything is actually very accurate. I'm still kind of blown away how well everything fits together. The ultimate question is though, are they strong enough? And thankfully, yes. I can actually do like an honest max effort leg press on this thing, and the mounts don't even budge. In fact, this seat with these custom 3D printed mounts feels stronger than the stock default seat that I had in here. That thing would creak and flex all the time, but this thing feels really locked in. I also like how the nylon carbon fiber filament looks like it came with the rig. It has that kind of rough powder-coated finish with it. I am going to reprint these ones on the rear here, which were printed with PETG, but yeah, very happy with how these came out. This next upgrade, though, I've been told is one of the most immersive upgrades that you can do to a racing sim, and it's called the butt kicker. It's basically what the name suggests. In a normal car, you get a lot more information and feedback through your hips and your lower body than you might expect. You know, losing traction in the rear of the car, for example, or hitting a curb. All of that is information and vibration that should be felt in your lower body, and it's basically what this is trying to achieve. So we've got some cables, we've got a massive amplifier as well, but the main component is this thing right here, the bass shaker. This thing attaches somewhere on your racing sim, preferably on the back of the seat, and literally shakes it. It says the frequency response is between 300 hertz and 5 hertz, so right in that deep sub-bass range. Yeah, I don't know whether to be excited or scared. So with the amp right here, we've got a bunch of cables which are tucked underneath the racing seat, and then we've got the butt kicker right here. I will admit, it's more of like a mid-back kicker, the way that I've got it mounted right here, but hopefully it still feels okay. I did have to 3D print this mount here because there was like nowhere else to mount it here. These tubes on the rest of the racing sim were way too thick, and there's nowhere I can mount it underneath the rig. So yeah, hopefully this doesn't feel too weird once we get to actually driving. Oh, I never thought I'd spend 2,000 euros on a brake pedal for my racing sim, but here we are. This is the SimuCube Active Pedal Pro. It is the slightly more affordable but still painfully expensive force feedback pedal. This is the brake pedal that I was using previously, which is comically smaller smaller in comparison, and that is because it is a passive pedal. It's got a spring, you've got a couple of elastomers. You can swap these components out to change the brake pressure, but there's not a whole lot else you can do here. The reason this is so big and it's so expensive is because it is actually controlled by a motor on the inside. It actually functions a lot like a direct drive wheelbase, where the motor is responsible for the force feedback and all of the vibration that you feel. So yeah, I've heard this thing actually punches out a lot of feedback under heavy braking, and it's something I cannot wait to test out. It is, though, absolutely massive. Dude, take a look at the size of this compared to my throttle, which is right over there. And that, by the way, I still will be leaving completely passive, so just a spring. I've heard that active pedals aren't, super necessary for the accelerator or the throttle. SimuCube themselves actually sell a kit with the throttle still being passive. So yeah, hopefully this mismatched setup doesn't feel too weird. Also, the amount of cables that I now need to run this rig, I mean, dude, it is getting out of hand. Don't even ask me what is what anymore, because I honestly have no idea. And we still have one more thing to add. So this has to be one of the coolest things that I've ever 3D printed. Ducted wind simulation with Noctua fans. First is the hub where the fan slots in, and then we've got an intake and exhaust vent which magnetically attach. Has this really cool floating look to it, and again, 3D scanning came in absolutely clutch here. A quick scan of the top of the rig, and I was able to make these the exact size that I wanted. A large scoop that sits underneath the monitor with a narrower funnel at the end, speeding up and directing the air towards the driver. Maybe the coolest thing though is that they actually spin up as your speed increases in the game to properly simulate wind. There are a few guides out there on how to do this. For me, I've used 5-volt Noctua NFA12, so they can be powered straight off of an Arduino. I've heard a lot of sim racing enthusiasts rave about how much wind simulation can add to driving immersion, especially in VR, so I just had to try it. But did any of these upgrades even make a difference? I don't think I'm going outside ever again, because with a racing sim like this, man, do I even need to. Let's talk about the butt kicker first. This thing really impressed me. I had no idea what to expect, but now that I've driven with it, I don't think I can play without it. The mounting especially turned out to be, pretty decent, especially for simulating gear shifts. I think that's where it's really excelling. Every time I slap into a new gear, upshift, downshift, I feel like a massive punch in my lower back, which, without it, you don't feel anything. It also simulates the engine RPMs, the tire slip. You can actually go in and fiddle around with all the different values and ramp them up and ramp them down depending on what you're after. I did have a little fiddle around with it, but it kind of ended up feeling a little bit fake and artificial the more I played with it. I think I've just got everything on 50% at the moment. The seating position, not a whole lot to say there. We've kind of tested it out a little bit already, but yeah, really love this kind of bucket position. I feel like my hips are kind of just brought in a little bit more. My shoulders are kind of squeezed in like a proper racing bucket seat. But yeah, overall, the rig is feeling really comfy. The pedal as well. SimuCube active pedal, oh my god. I knew it was going to be good for 2,000 euros. At least I hoped it would have been good, but holy crap. They really thought of everything that you could do with this pedal. The braking force, for example, from 5 kilos all the way up to 110 kilos. I've been playing with it kind of around 35 to 40. That kind of seems semi-realistic to me, but also, pretty comfortable. But you can also change the force curve of the braking. So some cars out there might have a braking force that looks like this. I'm sure if you understand this stuff a little bit more, maybe you're like an actual race car driver and you kind of want to be really specific about simulating a certain brake pedal feel. You can definitely create whatever you are after. But then you scroll down a little bit, and that's where things get really freaky. Dude, the things that you can do with this pedal, again, they literally thought of everything. This is not going to be like an in-depth review of the active pedal. I'm sure there are much more capable drivers out there who can explain this stuff better than I can. But, the stuff that I have turned on, I've got it simulating the traction control. I've got the ABS ramped up quite a bit because I do like how that feels. And then the motor vibration, so simulating the rumble of the engine, you can actually feel that through the pedal. Even with this really basic software setup though, oh my god, this pedal feels absolutely out of this world. You can see there, the pedal is kicking my foot off of it with the ABS system, preventing that lock up. But then even stuff bouncing mid-corner, trail braking, everything just feels so insane with this pedal. I'm not about to say it's worth 2,000 euros. It's a goddamn lot of money. But yeah, it is a really impressive piece of kit. But then I put on the VR headset and it changed everything. All of these upgrades felt 2 to 3 times more immersive and impressive than before. The only way that I can explain it is that when I was looking at the monitor and the rig, I was still cognizant of all of these individual parts and what job they were doing. But throw on a headset and it truly feels like it's all one single piece. The active pedal and the bass shaker now somehow feel like they're firing in sync, and the wind simulation felt way more convincing. VR with these upgrades is a completely different world. I know it sounds insane, but I could almost now feel the balance of the car mid-corner with all of this new feedback, something that was completely missing before. With all of the granular detail and texture that you get from the bass shaker and the active pedal, you can properly feel the true limit of whatever you're driving, compared to without them, where you kind of just have to purely rely on your wheelbase and visual cues on the screen. By that time, it's kind of too late. I think I am finally done upgrading this thing. The only thing that I have not done yet would be like a motion system, which actually pivots the rig depending on, steering angle and stuff like that. I don't see too many actual sim enthusiasts using them though. I don't know, maybe some people can let me know down below if they're actually good. They are seriously expensive though, so I'm kind of hoping they're not good. I might add another bass shaker towards the front of the rig, and I might upgrade the throttle to an active pedal as well, because that active pedal I was seriously impressed with. But otherwise, man, this thing is feeling pretty maxed out.
You want to build a sick gaming PC on a reasonable budget. But the thing is, $1,000 doesn't stretch as far as it used to. Even a console can cost that much these days. Maybe the solution is time travel. No, not literally. I mean taking your parts selection back a few generations. But how much performance are you leaving on the table? I mean, 9600 is a much higher number than 5700, so it must be a much better choice, right? Right? No. And in fact, these two CPUs are kind of the perfect springboard for our little investigation / experiment here. Should we just stop buying the latest hardware? To find out, we built two entire systems using two wildly different philosophies. This one can only use current generation parts, while this one can reach as far back into the past as it wants in search of the best bang for the buck. Now, as you would expect, pricing's always changing. So if we built these systems a week ago or a week from now, we might get very different computers. But we're still interested in identifying any trends, tips, and tricks that we can see that might help you get the most out of your next build or even your current one. We're also interested in identifying our sponsor, MSI. Power up your rig with the MPG X description. AMD doesn't really do new Ryzen 3 CPUs anymore, so our brand new PC, AMD doesn't really do new Ryzen 3 CPUs anymore, so our brand new PC was kind of stuck with the Ryzen 7 9600X. Not that that's a terrible thing. I mean, when you consider that it uses Zen 5 versus the Zen 3 we're going to be using in this system, you'd think the answer would be obvious. But our older 5700X 3D has 2 extra cores and is packed to the gills with 3D V-Cache. Now, this chip hasn't quite achieved 1080 Ti levels of Legendary, but the more than $150 saving and is packed to the gills with 3D V-Cache. Now, this chip hasn't quite achieved 1080 Ti levels of Legendary, but the more than $150 savings versus and is packed to the gills with 3D V-Cache. Now, this chip hasn't quite achieved 1080 Ti levels of Legendary, but the more than $150 savings versus its bigger brother frees up some very interesting budget for some big upgrades later on. That's benefit numero uno of the old is gold philosophy, choice. Not only is there generally more selection, but you can get substantial discounts on new in-box hardware that retailers are hoping to clear from their shelves. That is, as long as you're ready to strike. There can be trade-offs, though. For example, our 5700X 3D here uses socket AM4, which is a dead end for future upgrades and even for some current ones. Even if you paired this chip with the best compatible motherboard on the market, you'd still be stuck with PCIe Gen 4 and DDR4 memory. Although, it's worth noting those probably aren't major considerations at a $1,000 budget. Even our SSD, we'd have probably stuck with a Gen 4 boot drive even if we had extra money to spend. Gen 5 drives cost more, don't really benefit gaming, and they run hotter. At least they do today. But who knows what the future holds for devices that'll fit in these slots. And being compatible with future hardware is a tangible advantage for Team Shiny here. It can also be an advantage today. DDR5, all other things being equal, offers a small but measurable benefit over DDR4, and our 16 gigs of T-Force Delta RGB fit measurable benefit over DDR4, and our 16 gigs of T-Force Delta RGB fit perfectly in our budget. We would have rather gone with something a little bit faster, but that kind of trade-off is kind of our point. If we want something new, we don't always get a best-in-class part. It has gotten really hard to spec a well-rounded $1,000 machine with all new-gen parts. Meanwhile, in TARDIS land, though, we got that same 16 gig capacity, but this time right in the price-performance sweet spot, with the only downside being that when we want to upgrade a few years down the road, we're going to need to replace our CPU, RAM, and motherboard all in one fell swoop. Speaking of motherboard, this ASUS Prime B550MA is a pretty good value when it's on sale for around $100. Meanwhile, this Gigabyte X870 Gaming Plus Wi-Fi 6 ran us $220. That is a huge difference. But then again, so is Wi-Fi 6, PCIe Gen 5 for both the GPU and SSD, not to mention an AM5 socket, which AMD has committed to support until at least 2027. That means new chips, new drivers, and, maybe most importantly, new security updates. AMD has recently said that they will not be patching Ryzen 1000, 2000, or 3000 series chips for the sync close vulnerability, although they backtracked on the 3000 series after some community outrage, and seeing as the latest 3000 series came out in 2020, the same year that we started getting 5000 series processors, the end of support for our older platform, oh, not that one, this one, is probably coming soon. Clearly that won't matter when it comes to our next part, though, the case. On this side, we've got our random old case that was cheap. And over here, we've got the Phanteks Eclipse G360A. Now, in terms of size and features, they're both fairly similar, but with cases, the devil's in the details. Good ventilation, cable management that's not going to cut your fingers, and some high-quality included fans. Very nice, Phanteks. Meanwhile, over here, this is what fit in our budget?
Heck yeah.
Cool. Well, thankfully, we probably won't need as much cooling for these components because we're not going to have it. There is cable management, though, and it's got one fan included. I expect our Corsair CX 650 watt to give us a better long-term experience than our $41 Thermaltake Smart 600 watt. But it was the only thing that fit in this budget. And honestly speaking, even our better Corsair could end up near its limit. If you were to replicate these builds, we would strongly recommend a juicier power supply for both of these systems. And if you are, by the way, we're going to have all the parts linked down below.
You'll notice that what's in this system is not actually the 600 watt one. This is such a crappy power supply, it wouldn't even boot the system.
Is this over budget now?
It's a $20 more for 60 more watts. Seems to be doing the trick, but yeah.
For our cooler, we settled on the Thermalright Phantom Spirit. It's so nice, we bought it twice. Yep, this thing is so good, we used the same one for both systems. Which actually brings us to the big difference, our GPUs. Until the NVIDIA RTX 5000 series comes out, and I guess also maybe eventually has an option that doesn't cost more than our entire budget, we are stuck with the Zotac Twin Edge RTX 4060. To be clear, it's not a terrible card. It's got decent 1080p gaming performance with the usual NVIDIA features that turn it into a far more compelling package than its wimpy 8 gigs of VRAM would normally allow. I can see why it's popular compared to its AMD equivalent. But here's the thing. This XFX Speedster Radeon 7800 XT is not an equivalent card. We were able to spend an extra $200 on it thanks to our frugality elsewhere. So even though it's hard to compare spec for spec across Team Green and Team Red, we can probably expect a huge performance delta, not to mention the doubled PCIe bandwidth. Of course, in theory, that shouldn't impact the real world too much, but hey, why am I talking about theory? It's time to put these systems to the test. Representing Team Brand New will be David, but here's the thing, it's 1080p game eventually has an option that doesn't cost more than our entire budget. we are stuck with the Zotac Twin Edge RTX 4060. To be clear, it's not a terrible card. It's got decent 1080p gaming performance with the usual NVIDIA features that turn it into a far more compelling package than its wimpy 8 gigs of VRAM would normally allow. I can see why it's popular compared to its AMD equivalent. But here's the thing. This XFX Speedster Radeon 7800 XT is not an equivalent card. We were able to spend an extra $200 on it thanks to our frugality elsewhere. So even though it's hard to compare spec for spec across Team Green and Team Red, we can probably expect a huge performance delta, not to mention the doubled PCIe bandwidth. Of course, in theory, that shouldn't impact the real world too much, but hey, why am I talking about theory? It's time to put these systems to the test. Representing Team Brand New will be David, while I will be taking our old machine. Not because I know the outcome and I like winning.
Because you're old.
But
you made that one too easy.
Let's start with a Cinebench drag race. Ready? And go!
I'm tired. I'm gonna sit down. I guess I'm the old one.
My knee's cracked. I'm totally out ahead.
You must have been trying to distract from the fact that the all-new system is pulling ahead.
You know what? The difference isn't that much, especially when you consider that that is 2 generations newer. But then, I'm not really sure what I expected, because I have 2 more cores. Let's move on to gaming. I love what you've done with the backgrounds, by the way. Abe Simpson is my familiar. He follows me around everywhere. No one else can see him. I would think 1440p.
Yeah, that's what I've been testing everything. 120.
That's gonna be pretty rough. 4060. Not my problem.
I would also be curious to run it at a lower resolution to see
if your faster cores are a huge benefit. Or are they even faster? I got X3D. Your game just crashed.
Yeah, booted me out.
We were having some trouble with Expo on this system. That's the thing. It's technically overclocking. We might need to go back to JDEC settings. That's not going to help your performance numbers, but it's the luck of the draw.
Your performance is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
350
FPS, I'll take it.
Oh, I thought you had him.
Oh, I missed. I like flinched. I'm a flincher.
Well, you haven't dropped below 200, and I seem to live there.
It's almost like having a way better GPU makes a pretty big difference for gaming.
Who'd have known?
Let's test my theory that I could switch to very high and still have better FPS than you.
That's very high?
Yep.
Oh, hey, I'm winning.
Barely, though.
Barely.
This is an entire notch up in in-game settings. And about the same level of performance.
And I'm noticing my 1% lows dropping to below 100, too.
Actually, yeah. My 1% lows are significantly better than yours. Let's do Final Fantasy 16 next.
After about a 1-minute unskippable cutscene, we can jump right to the pretty epic icon fight. That'll give us a pretty good indicator of what our performance is going to be.
And this is a very on-topic game right now, since this is one of the big PlayStation 5 exclusives that has just come. Thing is, dude, that was chugging.
Yeah, that was below 20.
I mean, NVIDIA's got a lot of cool technology to make up for having an underpowered GPU like FrameGen. But wouldn't you rather just have more frames?
This is definitely a game that's designed around upscaling. Which is a bit unfortunate, but this is pretty hopeless considering this is already 1440p. I don't know how much.
15 FPS.
And this is a $1,000 PC. Like, this is a pretty hefty. Investment.
And you haven't just blown money on dumb stuff either. You've spent too much on your motherboard by getting a top-tier chipset.
second to top tier.
That's true. But other than that, you haven't really done anything stupid.
No. I legitimately tried to make a good $1,000 build. It's hard.
You just tried a lot harder over here.
No, it's just easier. There's so many more choices.
And if you guys think, oh, you guys just cherry-picked a couple of games that run way better, able to get Expo running on this machine. It's not going to make up the kind of difference we're observing here. It's night and day. I'm tempted to turn on FrameGen.
Sure.
And see if you can even make up the ground using that. Okay. Well, that gets you there. It's noticeably blurrier.
You can tell that it's lower resolution.
But it's not bad. How does it feel?
It's pretty good. It's pretty snappy. I'm not upset. We're making a pretty good case for DLSS. This went from a pretty unplayable mess to it's not bad.
Okay, what about if we're looking off into the distance? Okay, like how's the water look?
Yours definitely has a little more detailed resolved. This is kind of, it almost feels less contrasty, even though these are the same monitors.
Yep, and it's the same in the textures on the character model. It's clearly a little bit sharper for me.
Oh yeah, you can really see that in the chainmail.
Yeah, and to your point, oh, ew!
Oh yeah.
Oh, ew! Oh, not good. So it can be pretty distracting sometimes. And turned on any of my upscaling. If you just sharpness filter applied to everything, turned on any of my upscaling. If you just want to see FPS number go up, I got that too. I really did not get a lot of extra frames, and I just got a sharpness filter applied to everything.
Yeah.
Dang it, FSR.
Not nearly as good. Hey, and I'm getting my 30 FPS cutscenes now. I did it. Incredible.
DLSS and FrameGen really is the compelling argument to make for the modern gen system. And it's worth noting that if you strongly do prefer one brand of GPU over the other, it's not like we couldn't have put an NVIDIA card in our older gen system. We could have gone with 3070 or something like that. And you can even get some really great deals on 3080s. But we decided for the sake of this video that we weren't going to look at used cards. We were just going to stick to stuff that you could buy brand new. All that's left now is to answer the question of which of these systems would you buy? Let us know in the comments. The oldie but goodie AM4, they cleared them out. And while you still, once NVIDIA, let us know in the comments. The oldie but goodie or the shiny new toy. And also to talk about what we've learned. First of all, timing is everything. The AM5 platform is coming up on 3 years old, with the AM4 platform crossing the 8-year mark just recently. So it's no wonder that there's lots of deals to be had here and not so many over here. But you can't take that for granted. Once NVIDIA cleared out their 3000 series cards, they cleared them out, and while you still can find them brand new from time to time, it's pretty rare. Another thing we learned is that generational gains don't seem to trump the savings of buying older hardware. At least, it's not a guarantee. There were a lot of challenges in picking the parts for these. There's going to be a Floatplane exclusive closer look where David's going to be discovered into all having their and I competed to build the best PC
For a gaming PC, why do you say AM4 is dead? Almost all people are on this platform. It's not dead yet. This is one of the most valid questions I've ever been asked. Here's your proper explanation. When investing in building a new gaming PC, if you have the budget, it's a good idea to choose a CPU socket that will support CPU generations that aren't even out yet. That way you can upgrade your CPU in the future without having to replace your motherboard and RAM. When AM4 launched in 2016, it was a great purchase because it was gonna support 4 to 5 generations of CPUs, so you didn't have to upgrade your motherboard. But those CPU generations are all already released now. There's no other AM4 CPU generation that's coming. It's dead. This is the same with Intel's LGA 1700, which supports 12th, 13th, and 14th gen. We already know that 15th gen will be on a brand new socket, so 1700 is dead. The only CPU socket right now that has more generations of support that haven't been released yet is AM5. That's why I'm recommending it so much right now. For a gaming PC, why do you say AM4 is dead? Almost all people are on this platform. It's not dead yet. This is one of the most
Does the AMD Ryzen 7 X3D parts even need to compete with the i7 in gaming performance? A lot of the time, it feels like the more relevant comparison is the i5. Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to. I mean, usually the X3D 8-core is priced close to where the i7 is.
I think there's a strong case to be made for an SKU as whatever is closest in price to it. And I guess we'll see how it shakes out. Maybe the Ultra 5 could end up being closer. In price to the X3D than we think, but at these pricings, the Ultra 7 stuff look like it's going to be with a competitor that of the 9800 X3D.
And when it comes to i5, I just think the i5s compete with last gen or the budget versions. Like right now, 5700 X3D is like $200 and competes with Raptor like fine in gaming, well, using a fraction of the energy, and again, costing a lot less. You know, I think we can compare it to the i5 eventually when they launch a 9600 X3D, but they haven't yet. Does the AMD Ryzen 7 X3D parts even need?
This dude bought an RTX 4060 from Best Buy, and the internet is eating him alive right now.
I doubt this Reddit thread will stay up for much longer.
This is just a normal dude trying to share his happiness of his new graphics card, but little does he know that the PC master race hates the RTX 4060. Top comment, dude has brass balls posting this here. Be prepared to get roasted here. There's almost 1,000 comments on this already. Honestly, guys, it's pretty sad. The reason he's getting roasted is because pretty much everybody was unhappy with the launch of the RTX 4060 because in terms of FPS per dollar, it was pretty awful. It's very similar in performance to the last generation RTX 3060. However, if you don't look at the price for just a second, the physical RTX 4060 graphics card is still actually pretty good. It chews through every game in 1080p, and honestly, the price of it has continued to go down. And as a community, we should always just be happy when somebody upgrades their gaming PC,
Even if they don't make the most optimized meta choices.
This dude bought an RTX 4060 from Best Buy, and the internet is.
It's the 27th of March, 1999. An F-117 Nighthawk tears through the dark, stormy skies, low over the Serbian countryside. The pilot is Lieutenant Colonel Daryl Zalko, and his mission is to bomb the command center of the Serbian Air Force in Belgrade. It's the headquarters of the force that's going to try and stop him on his mission tonight. Zalko to base may be capable of detecting the target. It's another mission. Slowly and...
Head Sandy 01. Over. Futbolskoj utakmici.
$500! How am I supposed to build a PC on a budget when the part you plug the actual good stuff in, the flipping motherboard, costs as much as my entire first computer? Wait, I've got one idea. You see, the motherboard is one of the easiest parts to accidentally break when you're building a PC, meaning many people have broken them. And eBay is flooded with cheap, broken boards that are just begging, Linus, please fix me. But can they be fixed? To find out, we bought one. Then we bought another one. Then we bought 6 more. Oh my goodness! And the best part is, as far as we can tell, fixing most of these motherboards should be an easy path to savings. You did not tell me that today was going to be this challenging. Let's go! And the top snapped off. Just like this easy segue to our sponsor, iFixit. They just announced their FixHub Power Series lineup, which includes a portable soldering station, a soldering toolkit, and a 100-watt smart soldering iron. In the old days, the most delicate part of a computer was the little pins on the bottom of the CPU. If you so much as looked at those things sideways, they could end up sideways. The good thing about CPU pins, though, was that they were relatively easy to repair, and in fact, we've done a couple videos in the past on how you can fix everything from broken to outright removed ones. Unfortunately, that's not going to help you that much if you have a modern system, because both AMD and Intel have moved the pins from the CPU, where they're their liability, to the motherboard, where they are someone else's liability. And in the process, they've made them even more fragile. You so much as get a little bit of hair caught on one of these and pull it with the force of a mosquito's wings taking off, and your motherboard goes from wicked fast gaming to wicked brick. And there's all kinds of ways that this can accidentally happen. Leave your motherboard sitting out without the little plastic socket cover, you're probably going to end up with a bent pin. See a little bit of dust in there and go to pick it out. You guessed it, bent pin. I've personally bent pins on a number of occasions.
Yep, me too.
Do we have that one on camera when you dropped the... CPU in the socket as you were trying to put it in?
No. That one wasn't repairable.
Anyway, I've also bent them back many times and ended up with a perfectly working motherboard. The question then is, can I apply those skills to a socket that was bent by somebody else? Starting with this ASRock Z690 Extreme Wi-Fi 6E. You're actually going to notice there's going to be a pattern in the boards we're trying to fix. We mostly tried to target higher end ones because those are the ones that are the most worth putting in our time in order to fix. The story for this guy is that he's a customer return that was untested, and untested is actually a good thing in this case. Even though we can't necessarily believe that, because eBay sellers can lie, if it is truly untested, that means that no one else has taken a crack at it, potentially causing further damage. It also means that there's a better chance that it can be repaired, because if someone already tried and it's still dead, well, let's see what wasn't worth them bothering to test. Oh, well, there's something. Those two pins look bent, but very fixable. But the one I'm actually more worried about is this spot right here. That looks like it could be a missing or broken off pin outright, and those are a lot harder to deal with without specialty tools. Oh, look at that. You can barely even tell now. Dude, Alex, find me the pins that were bent.
Oh, are we not recording here?
Oh. Oh, we missed it. All right, well, they were there. You saw them in the probe lens, now they're not there.
Yep.
That's not the one that I was most worried about, though. The one I'm most worried about is the one that looks more like it's missing in this corner. I can't even see it. I might need a bit of a different angle here. Uh-oh.
Oh.
There it is.
Oh.
We're just gonna... Oh, that's bad news. The way these are made up, there's kind of like a spring portion on the bottom, and then there's another one that goes the other way, and then there's like a ball, like a little contact pad on the bottom that touches the bottom of the CPU. If that breaks off, your only hope is to kind of force the spring portion up so that that contacts the pad on the bottom of the CPU. With that said, some of these pins are extra ground connections or unused pins that might have been for testing purposes or reserved for future functionality and aren't needed. Now, we could painstakingly look up exactly what that pin does, but now that we've fixed the other two, the faster way to deal with this would probably be to just throw a CPU in here and see if it works. I don't know if I'm gonna do that though. I think I'm gonna go for gold. It looks like there's just one of them that is busted here.
I found a diagram of what does what on LGA 1700.
Oh, brilliant. We're 5 in from the very bottom.
It's a ground pin.
Maybe.
Maybe.
That's what we think. There might be one more here at the edge. Ah. Oh, wow. Yeah, this guy got mangulated. Have you tried to fix any of these yet, Alex?
No, it's an adventure day. We have so many, and they were all so cheap that even if we only get like 2, we win. Like, did you tell them how much this motherboard cost us?
I don't think I did.
Do you know how much this motherboard cost us?
I don't think I do.
$30.
$30?
$30.
And all I have to do is this.
Yeah, and then you have $170 savings.
Dude, I'm totally gonna get this one. And the top snapped off. I think I might have that in position enough. So what we're looking at right here is this little nubbin at the end of this. It just needs to touch where this pad does on the in between these two. See that? So as long as we can bring it up high enough, we should have contact. Is it ideal? No. But it wasn't ideal when Doofus McNumpty here did whatever he did to his socket. That's not my fault. I think the bigger question we should be asking is, why is this motherboard bent?
Oh, wow. Which CPU did you choose?
It's a 12700K. That way we don't need to worry about if it needs a new BIOS or anything like that. We're just gonna throw some goop on approximately where the die is, because it's not like we're gonna be gaming on them. We're just testing for basic functionality. Then AMD coolers are great for this because they just kind of go on there, and then we're good to go. I think I figured out why the motherboard's bent. Whoever it is dropped it. That does not necessarily preclude it working, though. Let's give it a shot. I think NZXT asked us to use this power supply. This is their new C1500. It's 80 plus platinum, obviously can do up to 1500 watts, and given what NVIDIA's 50 series cards are rumored to be sucking back, that may be more necessary than you'd think. Anyway, let's flip her on.